A 5-day march by Romanian miners to the capital, Bucharest, stopped short of its destination today. The miners want pits earmarked for closure to stay open. They're also demanding better pay. Tonight, the government appeared to have reached a compromise with miners' leaders at an impromptu meeting at a monastery outside Bucharest. From there, our senior correspondent Mark Austin reports.
Once again, it seems the miners of Romania have won a victory. The most powerful labour force in this country has flexed its muscle and forced another government to give in. It was a peace brokered by Romania's religious leaders. Brought together in a secluded church tonight, Prime Minister and miners' chief nod their agreement to the deal. According to the Prime Minister, a crisis averted.
The labour conflict is stopped.
A conflict which posed the biggest threat so far to Romania's democratic government. Earlier, in a town 150 miles northwest of Bucharest, we came across the thousands of miners threatening to lay siege to the capital. These men, facing pit closures and layoffs, were angry and determined. We want to bring this government down and will fight till our last drop of blood, this mine worker told me. For 2 days, there have been repeated clashes with police as miners forced their way through roadblocks as they headed towards Bucharest. But today, the army was called out, deploying thousands of men and tanks to halt the march. The state of emergency was about to be imposed, although these troops were in no mood to fight the miners.
Not our brothers.
But tonight they didn't have to. The miners winning a wage rise now in return for long-term cutbacks. But what remains uncertain tonight is whether the agreement apparently struck in this church behind me will stick and whether it will halt the miners' march on Bucharest. Mark Austin, News at 10 in southwest Romania.
Coming up next on News at 10, today's other main news and sport. First, miners with damaged hands settle a multi-million-pound compensation deal. Then, the amazing images that show how medicine helps a woman grow a new jaw. In our look ahead to the weekend sport, all the eyes on the big guns of Liverpool and Manchester United ahead of Sunday's FA Cup clash. And why the stars of Britain's booming film industry are poised to take Hollywood by storm again.
The chance has turned up this year that English actors happen to have been in some very good films.
The landmark big sale must end Monday! So you'd better hurry for big savings on sofas. The Majesty, half price. The Samantha, half price. And £500 off the Erica. And it's leather. You can save a big £1,400 on this cabinets, table and 4 chairs. Big savings on carpets. With free fitting on all carpets over £7.99 a square metre. And there's interest-free credit available. The landmark big sale! Hurry, ends Monday.
Welcome back. 30,000 British miners who've suffered from the long-term consequences of using heavy drilling equipment were today given the news they'd been waiting for years. They're to get government compensation for a condition called vibration white finger. The largest payment will be £50,000, the smallest £5,000. Here's ITN's Hal Jones.
These 3 former miners in Nottinghamshire were sharing memories of life underground tonight, but they share something else too. Vibration white finger, debilitating damage to their hands.
Well, they say it'll never get better. It never gets no better. You've got it for life, and you deteriorate all the time with it.
What are the everyday effects that you get all the time?
My finger ends split and crack, and they're all. I scrubbed these tonight, and they're still. This hand's not so bad. But here, my thumb ends and my finger ends here are terrible.
Miners know the condition as dead hand. Constant vibration from power tools chokes the blood supply to fingers and damages nerves. At Manchester High Court today, 30,000 miners won a record settlement, £500 million.
The range of damages that were awarded by the High Court in this case were £5,000 to about £50,000. And the agreement that's been reached is reflective of that.
Later this year, former miners with chest diseases might also be compensated. The total bill for the government could be £2 billion. The Energy Minister told me it will be paid.
We think we have a moral obligation to pay where compensation is due, and we'll make sure that they are paid in full the just compensation that they deserve.
And the compensation bill could eventually be double the amount the Exchequer received through privatising the coal industry. Howell Jones, News at 10, Nottinghamshire.
The Serb forces attacking the ethnic Albanians in Kosovo came under increased pressure today. NATO stepped up the momentum for military action, and in London, the International Contact Group in Kosovo said both sides must attempt to end the crisis by talking and not by fighting. Our diplomatic editor Robert Moore reports.
The Serb decision not to expel William Walker, the head of the team monitoring Kosovo's ceasefire, may have eased the immediate crisis, but there is little sign of progress on a political settlement. The Serb forces and the Kosovan Albanians fighting for independence are both judged to be in serious breach of the ceasefire. The West believes the diplomacy now underway may be the last chance of forcing through a deal before the war reignites in the spring. Diplomats from key powers arrived at the Foreign Office today, hoping the warring parties can be brought to the negotiating table within weeks to agree on a new autonomy deal for the province.
We cannot go on in this stalemate. Neither side is going to win this conflict by war. The Kosovo Liberation Army cannot throw the Yugoslav army out of Kosovo, and the Yugoslav army cannot fight the whole of the Kosovo Albanian population.
NATO is still deploying air and naval power to the region. For amid the diplomatic exertions underway, a senior British official has described the situation this evening as extremely precarious. The diplomatic focus is now on maximising pressure on both sides, but the overall picture remains extremely bleak. Neither the Kosovar Albanians nor the Serbs appear to have much appetite for the political settlement on offer. Robert Moore, News at 10, at the Foreign Office.
There was some good economic news for the government today. The latest figures showed output continuing to grow. In the final quarter of last year, gross domestic product grew by 0.2%. Analysts had been predicting a fall. Our special report tonight is the remarkable story of a woman's recovery from injuries sustained in a car crash 22 years ago. Linda Holroyd from West Yorkshire was thrown to the windscreen. Her jaw and teeth were so badly damaged that she was unable to eat solid food. Doctors at the time did what they could, but medical science has moved on, and Linda has just had an operation to help her regrow her jaw. She's been talking to our reporter, Helen Wright.
Factory machinist Linda Holroyd is a medical pioneer, the first patient ever to benefit from a new surgical technique that's rebuilt part of her skull 22 years after it was smashed in a crash.
I was in a car travelling down the A1. The driver apparently fell asleep and I went through the car windscreen. All my upper jaw was broken and my cheekbone was broken. All my eye socket, it was all broken.
The damage was never properly repaired. So for 22 years, she's been unable to eat solid food.
Over the years, I found I could eat less and less. It wasn't really a pain in my jaw, it was just that I couldn't chew properly at this side. And apparently it had all worn, over the years it's all worn away.
But developments in the decades since her skull was damaged have allowed surgeons to grow Linda a new jaw. The lower jaw bone on the right was split horizontally. This metal bridge was then inserted. It held the two sides apart, forcing new bone to grow to fill the gap. By turning a screw in Linda's chin every day, the split in the jaw widened and more bone grew, eventually doubling the size of her jaw. For Linda and her husband, it's meant 7 months of visits to Pinderfields Hospital in Wakefield and 2 major operations.
I'll leave you alone.
They're now going through a third. This operation is to rebuild Linda's cheekbone and eye socket. It's a delicate procedure, with the surgical team taking slivers of bone from the top of her skull, which they then shape, and then graft onto existing bone to restore the socket. It's all held in place with a metal plate.
This is Linda's last operation, and surgeons are confident the eye socket, cheekbone and the new jaw they've grown will soon be strong enough for her to eat whatever she likes. But Linda says this pioneering surgery will also give her a new outlook on life.
As she told me before going into theatre.
I've always lacked confidence, you know, since I had this accident. And I'll be able to eat what I want to be able to eat. I'll have anything I want, so no more living on trifles, no more excuses for getting fat.
For myself, I hope everything's stable and works and that Linda is a happy and normally functioning patient, which is all I can hope for.
Both surgeon and patient are hoping the success of Linda's treatment will mean other accident victims can benefit from this pioneering technique. Helen Wright, News at 10, Wakefield.